Sorry, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise this afternoon to pilot the Asset Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill and the Income Tax Amendment Bill. Bills that respond directly to A, the unprecedented national emergency created by Hurricane Melissa, and B, address a long-standing administrative issue relating to the operation of the income tax and asset tax systems, reflecting this government's commitment to fairness, compassion, and sound fiscal governance. Madam Speaker, the Asset Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill advance a measured administrative adjustment to the timing of corporate income tax filing and payment, an issue that has been under active policy consideration for several years. On the other hand, the Income Tax Amendment Bill provides a targeted, time-bound response to the disruption caused by Hurricane Melissa by ensuring that employer-provided disaster-related support to employees is treated appropriately under the income tax framework. Madam Speaker, in outlining the provisions before this Honourable House, I will first, Mr. Speaker, in outlining the provisions before this Honourable House, I will first address the measures concerning the filing and payment of corporate income tax, then turn to the amendments governing disaster-related income tax treatment. Mr. Speaker, the administrative amendments I now outline are effected through both the Income Tax Amendment Bill and the Asset Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill. By way of background, Mr. Speaker, under the current framework, corporate taxpayers are required to finalize audited financial statements, prepare annual income tax returns, and make final tax payments within a relatively compressed period following the end of the year of assessment. This timeline has long been recognized as a sustained source of compliance pressure for corporate taxpayers and accountants. Mr. Speaker, this timeline has long been recognized as a sustained source of compliance pressure for corporate taxpayers and accountants and auditors, given the sequencing and complexity of year-end financial reporting obligations. The issue of adjusting the annual filing and payment date has been under active consideration since 2021, including a formal proposal raised during the 2021-22 budget debate and a subsequent reference in the minister's opening presentation for the 2025-2026 budget. The current fiscal circumstances have created an opportunity to advance this reform in a careful, measured manner. Mr. Speaker, the Income Tax Amendment Bill and the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill provide for a limited adjustment to the annual filing and payment date for corporate income tax, moving the final return and payment date from March 15th to April 15th, beginning with the year of assessment 2025. For administrative consistency, The Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill aligns the filing and payment date for assets tax with the revised corporate income tax timeline, recognizing that assets tax assessments are derived from the same underlying financial statements used for income tax purposes. Mr. Speaker, it is important to emphasize that this change is deliberately narrow in scope. It applies only to corporate income tax and assets tax and does not affect pay-as-you-earn individual income tax obligations or the existing quarterly estimated income tax prepayment schedule. The amendment is intended to reduce compliance pressure, improve administrative coherence, and better align revenue realization with fiscal planning, while remaining fully consistent with the government's overall fiscal framework. By way of background and national context, Mr. Speaker, on October 28, 2025, Hurricane Melissa made landfall in Jamaica as a Category 5 hurricane, inflicting devastation on a scale rarely experienced in our nation's history. Several parishes were severely affected, with widespread destruction of homes, businesses, public facilities, and essential infrastructure. Lives were tragically lost, entire communities were displaced, and thousands of Jamaicans were forced into prolonged periods of uncertainty and hardship as a result of the hurricane. Damage assessments indicate multi-billion-dollar economic losses across major productive sectors, including housing, public infrastructure, agriculture, tourism, and other key industries. The physical damage has been estimated at approximately $8.8 billion, making Hurricane Melissa the costliest natural disaster in Jamaica's history. Beyond physical disruption, Mr. Speaker, the hurricane severely disrupted employment, income flows, and many households' ability to meet basic needs in the immediate aftermath. Mr. Speaker, in this context of profound national disruption and personal hardship, many employers stepped forward to provide emergency financial assistance to their employees. These payments were not made as remuneration for services rendered, but as support for personal recovery, welfare, and basic survival during a period of national distress. Recognizing these extraordinary circumstances, I announced to the House of Representatives on December 9th, 2025, that the government would move to establish a framework to allow the non-taxable treatment of disaster relief support provided by employers to their employees following Hurricane Melissa. That announcement, Mr. Speaker, reflected the government's clear view that the automatic application of the tax laws should not diminish humanitarian assistance provided in response to a declared disaster. Mr. Speaker, the Income Tax Adjustment Bill, now before this Honorable House, gives legislative effect to that commitment. It converts a necessary policy response into a clear statutory framework, providing certainty to employees, employers, and the tax administration alike, while ensuring that compassion and fiscal responsibility are properly aligned in law. Mr. Speaker, this Honorable House is reminded under Section 2.1 of the Income Tax Act that emoluments are defined broadly to include salaries, wages, fees, and any other benefits arising from employment, all of which are ordinarily subject to tax. Additionally, outside of the minister's discretionary remission powers under Section 86, which applies only where there is a considered just and equitable on a case-by-case basis, there's no standing statutory provision that allows disaster relief payments to be treated consistently as non-taxable following a declared disaster. The reliance on discretion alone, Mr. Speaker, is neither efficient nor equitable in the context of a large-scale national emergency. It creates uncertainty for employers seeking to assist their workers, inconsistency in tax treatment across similarly situated employees, and inequity for those who may receive relief only to see it partially eroded through taxation. Mr. Speaker, the bill provides that disaster-related honoraria paid by employers to employees during the period from November 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026 will not be treated as taxable income in the hands of employees. At the same time, the bill allows such payments to be treated as deductible expenses for employers, provided they are genuinely borne by the employer and supported by appropriate documentation. The bill, therefore, corrects an outcome that would otherwise undermine the very purpose of the relief being provided. Mr. Speaker, it is important to emphasize that this relief is carefully bounded and does not represent an open-ended exemption. The measure is deliberately limited to a defined post-disaster period and is designed to operate only in the specific context of Hurricane Melissa recovery. Further, the framework includes a prescribed cap to be determined by the minister, intended to strike an appropriate balance between providing meaningful support to affected workers and maintaining the principled structure of the income tax system. This approach, Mr. Speaker, minimizes revenue risk and ensures that the exemption remains proportionate in nature, duration, and fiscal impact. In addition, the Tax Administration Jamaica is empowered through prescribed record-keeping and reporting requirements to verify compliance with the relief, thereby safeguarding against abuse and ensuring transparency and accountability in its application. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is not done yet. Mr. Speaker, while this bill addresses the immediate circumstances arising from Hurricane Melissa, it is not intended to be the final word on how disaster-related employee support is treated in our tax system. Recent events have made it clear that Jamaica would benefit from a more enduring framework for managing disaster-related payments in future emergencies. It is with this thought, Madam Speaker, that the government has further amended the bill to include the permanent mechanism to allow for clearly defined disaster relief support to be treated consistently under the income tax regime, subject always to appropriate oversight. Mr. Speaker, these bills honor the commitment announced to this House. They support workers during recovery, provide certainty to employers, improve administrative efficiency, and preserve the integrity of the tax system. I therefore commend the Income Tax Amendment Bill and the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill to the honorable members of this House and invite your support. Mr. Speaker, may God bless this honorable House and may God bless Jamaica. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from St. Andrew Southeastern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Turn your mic on, please.
The amendments here aim to do three things. The first one related to the relief from employers to employees. When the minister brought it a couple of weeks ago, I indicated that we had no objection to what you were proposing. I questioned whether 200,000 was sufficient, but you said based on your own research. The question I would have, does this also allow the employer not to pay NIS, NHT, and the other deductions that they would normally pay to an employee? Is the relief only for income tax, or is it the relief for all the other applicable taxes that an employer is obliged to pay to an employee? The second thing, to move the date, the filing date from March to April, it is not something that we would have an objection to. I believe it puts the government in a better position to understand the amount of taxes it would collect by the end of the fiscal year, March 30th. And as the minister said, it's something that has been recommended by both tax professionals, and the fiscal commissioner actually in his last report recommended it. Minister, there is one question I have, which is related to section 4B, item 5. And the section reads, every person delivering a return of income shall include with the return a statement in the prescribed form or such form as may be agreed by the Commissioner General of the tax chargeable on that income under this Act, indicating how much, if any, of that tax remains unpaid, and the tax so indicated as unpaid shall be treated as if it had been the subject of a notice of assessment served on that person. I just want clarity here. Are you saying that when you file, and if you have not paid everything, and you so indicate, you will automatically be the subject of an assessment by the tax authorities? I'm just seeking clarification on that section. But the other two, as I said, we don't have objections, but I would like you to indicate whether the other taxes are, the employer will be relieved of the other taxes.
Member from West Central, St. James.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, this bill entitled an Act to amend the Income Tax Act is seeking to do a number of things. My contribution will be limited to the provision for relief in respect of Hurricane Melissa. Mr. Speaker, the minister is being empowered to exempt from income tax certain payments. It is unusual to set out in the primary legislation the details that are set out here. And if you look on the scheme of the provision, you see already where the minister is empowered by order, subject to affirmative resolution, to exempt certain payments. What is in the subsection could not be construed as including the sums that are specified. And I would like to propose for the minister's consideration an amendment to the provision to make the provision general and to enable any subsequent relief that is to be granted after decision is taken to prevent the need to amend the legislation again. And I believe if the provision were to be worded along the line of with effect from November 1, 2025, such sum as may be prescribed by the minister by order subject to affirmative resolution, which is paid by an employer to an employee for personal recovery and welfare due to loss or damage suffered from the effects of an occurrence referred to in section 20, subsection 2, paragraph C of the Constitution, or a disaster which is the subject of an order under section 26 of the Disaster Risk Management Act. It would allow for the goal to be achieved without having to come back to amend the principal legislation. And I think it's the same thing, it's just a matter of how it is provided for.